Hello guys, thank you very, very much for watching. You've been a fantastic online audience. We're going to answer a couple of questions that we've actually had on tour, so you guys can watch and you can learn even more as well. So one of the most common questions we get asked in schools is, what is epilepsy? So epilepsy is a neurological condition, so that affects your brain. And it is in 1 in 100 people in the world have epilepsy. And 70% of those people have controlled epilepsy where they take medication.
So, one of the other questions we've been asked is, what happens when you have a seizure? Well, if you imagine your brain is the centre of a computer, what's called the motherboard inside the computer, and all the bits and different parts of your body are all the different things connected up to that computer. So what happens is your brain will send a message to a part of your body. So for example, I can put my hand up like this, and I can wave like this. So I've told my brain I want to put my hand up and wave. But if in an epileptic seizure what happens is the electrical signals that normally would control just those little movements go a bit out of control. They get all mixed up, so they send loads of different electrical messages, like a power surge through your brain, through the computer, and it makes everything in your body, it might make it shake, it might cause the absent seizure, but that is what happens when you have a seizure.
So there are 60 different types of seizures that you can have. I haven't learned them all. But in our show, we talk about the two most common seizures. The first one is the absent seizure, which is where the princess goes blank and she stares. And the other one is the tonic-clonic seizure, and that's the one that makes you shake.
So what does it feel like to have an epileptic seizure? Well, generally, the person will be unconscious, which means that during the seizure, they won't feel anything. And actually, it's often much scarier for the people around them. However, the recovery of a seizure can be short or long, depending on how severe the seizure has been. So, the person after the seizure may have aching muscles, they might have severe headaches, and perhaps they've even bitten their tongue. Often this person needs to sleep for a long time to rest and recover. They may go into hospital, or they may stay at home to recover.
So one of the other questions that we've been asked a lot is what do you do if you're on your own with someone who has a seizure and you panic and you can't remember what to do. So at this point I tell them that I'm married to this man who has epilepsy, and that's why we're allowed to sit so close on the bench. And what I always do is, even though I've seen it a lot of times and I know calm cushion call, I always call the ambulance, because there's someone on the end of the phone. They're really calm, and if you think, oh, I can't remember how to do the recovery position, they'll talk you through it and they'll tell you exactly what to do. So if you can't remember, just make sure you call the ambulance.
So, one of the other questions we've been asked is, how can you develop epilepsy? Well, in my case, I'm epileptic. I've got my medical alert bracelet here. And one of the things that happened to me is, in my mid-20s, I was hit by a car while I was on a bicycle, about 30 miles an hour. I was wearing a helmet and I walked away without a scratch. And about a year later, I started to develop seizures. And they think because of that trauma, when I banged my head on the car, it changed the structure of my brain, which meant that I started to have seizures. There's also other ways you can have seizures as well.
I also have epilepsy, but differently from Tom, I was born with epilepsy. They don't know the reason why. It may be down to genetics, or potentially because I was born prematurely. But I've had it since birth as well. And luckily for the two of us, we both have controlled epilepsy.
Now, it's so important to know that 1 in 20 people in their lifetime will have a seizure, and even more people will witness a seizure. That's why it's so important to remember your 3 C's: your calm, your cushion, and your call, so you know what to do.
If you'd like any further information, there's a fantastic website out there that gives you all sorts of information about epilepsy. It's called Epilepsy Action. You can find out more about the different types of seizures, get some examples about first aid, get some materials designed for kids and for teachers. It's a fantastic resource, and it means you can learn so much more. Thank you so much. Goodbye!